Ms. Lucky, are you aware that today in the House, during question period, the Prime Minister admitted that he did not give himself permission to accept a free vacation from a federal lobbyist?
Completely
Monsieur Brock,
irrelevant.
I said I don't want to talk about it.
Thank you, Mr. Brock.
Now on to you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for your attendance today. I would like to start off by questioning Ms. Lucky, Commissioner of the RCMP. Ms. Lucky, do you acknowledge and agree that the RCMP is independent of the federal government and is free to investigate without influence?
Yes.
Has the RCMP ever been influenced and or deterred by the federal government to investigate a criminal matter?
Not to my knowledge.
Is the RCMP free from any influence or direction by the federal government to lay a criminal charge?
Absolutely.
If the subject matter of an investigation is the Prime Minister himself, are you concerned about any government interference or reprisal?
No.
Can I ask on a point of order, Mr. Fortin? What is the relevance of this line of questioning? I think you're exercising a large degree of latitude, and I've yet to see any relevance whatsoever to...
I think it's difficult to determine the relevance at this point. We can let him go on, and if we realize it's not relevant, I agree with you, but for the time being, we have to give him some latitude.
The measures that were undertaken pursuant to the scope motion that Mr. Brock himself voted for, and that's with respect to the enforcement measures taken under the Emergencies Act.
I suggest we listen to Mr. Brock, hear his line of questioning. I'm not sure, but I would imagine that there is a link there.
Ms. Lucky, are you aware that today in the House, during question period, the Prime Minister admitted that he did not give himself permission to accept a free vacation from a federal lobbyist?
Completely irrelevant.
Mr. Brock? I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Villani, Mr. Brock. Unless you have an explanation to provide, I don't think this is relevant to our current study on the declaration of the state of emergency.
And to my colleague from the Liberal government that raised the point of order, I respectfully disagree. The Prime Minister is head of government. The Prime Minister was the lead voice in the invocation of the Emergencies Act. He is now under a cloud of suspicion with respect to the offense of fraud. Fraud is offense of dishonesty. Dishonesty involves the matter of integrity and character. And Canadians
I think
have
Mr.
a right.
Brock has made his point, and you've made a ruling.
I have the floor right now, and I'd like to continue my response.
Mr. Fortin, you've made a ruling. If we need to vote to endorse that ruling, I'm happy to call a vote.
Je veux juste qu'on laisse M. Brock expliquer.
I would just like us to give Mr. Brock an opportunity to explain things. His comments I've said are not relevant. He's trying to make an argument to try to convince us. I'm listening, but he hasn't yet caused me to change my mind. I'm going to let him have this opportunity to continue to explain things. Are you done, Mr. Brock?
I had one final point.
Okay.
On the issue of integrity and character and honesty, Canadians have a right to know whether or not our head of government has been compromised because of his involvement in this particular matter, and hence there has been an erosion of trust in the federal government.
Je m'excuse, Monsieur Brock, mais...
I'm sorry, Mr. Brock, but thank you, Mr. Brock. I'm maintaining my decision in that this line of questioning is not relevant to our debate. You still have 2.5 minutes left. I'll give you an opportunity to continue.
Oui.
Mr. Chair, I believe his time is up. I suspended the time during the time of the argument, or the debate on Mr. Virani's objection. There were 2 minutes and 42 seconds. So I'm going to give Mr. Brock an opportunity to continue his comments, so long as he remains relevant. So no accusations about the Prime Minister that might be relevant in the House, but not here. Thank you, Mr. Brock.
Now on to you, Minister. And I'm not going to accuse you of anything. Minister, with the time I have available, I try to get a couple of questions in. You'd agree with me that the government was not caught by surprise by the arrival of, your words, the so-called Freedom Convoy, that it in fact had been heavily publicized in social media, that the organizers of the convoy took appropriate steps to liaise with the Ottawa Police Service, with the Parliamentary Precinct Service, with the Mayor and City Council to announce their arrival. They were given permission to park on Wellington and adjacent streets. So you'd agree with me that it started as a peaceful protest, a protest that is so vigorously protected by our charter. Section 2, the freedom of assembly. Our democracy gives Canadians the right to voice their opinion with respect to any government policy. And what started off as a peaceful protest, in the words of the government, became an illegal protest. So the focus of my question is this: at what point in time, when, and what were the circumstances that caused the federal government to determine that what existed outside of West Block constituted an illegal protest?
Well, I would disagree with you, Mr. Brock, on a number of the premises underlying your question. First, from the outset, as I stated in my introductory remarks, the frame of the leadership of this so-called Freedom Convoy called for the overthrow of the government. They called for the Governor General to remove unilaterally the Prime Minister from office.
So let me stop you right there.
So I just want to underline I disagree.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Let me stop you right there, because that was a second line of question. We all know that there is a legal threshold before the invocation of the act was warranted. You and several other senior ministers, as well as the Prime Minister, deemed this to be a threat to public safety. And quite often you would refer in the House to the Memorandum of Understanding or the Manifesto. You'd agree with me, sir, that there was no language in the manifesto.
Thumbs up, Mr. Brock.